Power to the Princess, Cinderella. There was once a kingdom in which lived all manner of people. Royalty, merchants, artisans, performers, chefs, teachers, doctors, scientists, and many fine people who hadn't quite figured out what they were yet, one of whom was Ella. Ella's parents had recently passed away after long illnesses. They had lived noble lives and so were buried near a steadfast hazel tree. Ella was sad to say goodbye to her parents, but she took a small hazel tree seedling and set off. It was time for her to find purpose in a new place. Upon arriving in the city center, Ella planted her hazel tree, then sought work. At home, she had been excellent at organizing and kept everything tidy and clean for her folks in their last days. So when she noticed an advertisement in the town square for a house cleaner, she donned her overalls and off she went to the address listed in the ad. The family, a woman and her two daughters, hired her on the spot. Each day Ella cleaned floors, dusted surfaces, wiped glass, and tidied steps. The woman and her daughters were terribly demanding. They were always coming up with extra jobs, from fixing squeaky doors to assembling furniture, organizing closets to gluing together broken dishes, which Ella was sure they broke on purpose. It would have been bearable if they paid her a living wage, but when they remembered to pay her, which wasn't often, it was just pennies. On top of that, they bullied Ella with cruel names and nasty pranks, writing mean messages on the mirrors. "Enough's enough!" shouted Ella after one such instance, and with that she handed in her notice. Ella didn't want to have another bad employer, so she decided to go into business for herself. She was careful to only take on clients who paid fairly and offered respectful working conditions. Her hard work paid off, and soon her small business of one grew to include a few employees. Ella discovered that people who are treated better work better, and soon she and her team found themselves in high demand. They cleaned up after chimney sweeps a lot, so they decided to offer the service themselves. The scheme worked so well that soon the company became known as Cinderella's. Though through her classes and her colleagues, Ella met many wonderful people that worked in homes, gardens, and castles, helping the kingdom run smoothly. Her new friends worked in back kitchens and cellars, plodded up steep stairs hung from tower windows, and toiled in hot gardens. They shared their experiences with Ella, the hardships and the rewards. But Ella noticed that she and her friends, despite their hard work, were not making enough to grow their businesses or have homes of their own. So Ella began organizing her friends to attend local meetings and share their stories. She created a small business association and wrote letters to the leaders of the land, like senators, offering a glimpse into the life of those in service, and suggestions for ways to make the kingdom a more just and equal place to live. One day she even wrote to the king. The king had no idea of the plight of those who toiled in the kingdom, and was surprised and shaken by Ella's cause. He announced he would hold a benefit ball to support efforts to make their lives better. Ella was thrilled. She hadn't even expected a reply, and now the king was going to be an advocate, and she was so excited to attend the royal ball. There was just one hitch. Ella's wardrobe consisted of only work clothes, tattered overalls, grimy shirts, work boots. These weren't really ball options. All the money Ella made at work went into the business, so she had nothing extra to spend on party attire or hiring a carriage. She was in a real pickle. And when Ella found herself in a pickle, she often found her way to the small hazel tree she had brought with her. Sitting beneath it, she wondered aloud, "How am I ever going to get to this ball? I've nothing to wear, no carriage to take me." As if to answer the query, a brisk breeze swept through the garden and blew the leaves around, setting a magical moment in motion. For as the leaves settled, a most unusual lady was revealed. She had a wild head of hair, several pairs of spectacles, and a glittering wand in her hand. "Do I know you?" asked Ella, amazed. "Oh, I'm your fairy godmother, of course," said the mysterious guest. "Does that ring a bell? I've been watching you for a while now, dear Ella, and you've been doing so incredibly well for yourself. I was beginning to wonder if you'd ever need me. There's really nothing you can't do, my dear," she continued, "except perhaps fix your closet crisis. Would you like my help?" "A real fairy godmother, huh?" Ella said, collecting herself. "I'm stunned, but if your offer really stands, then yes, I would love your help with something to wear to the ball. I think this could be a big night for me, and I want to feel great. You know what I mean?" "I think I do," said her fairy godmother with a twinkle in her eye. "First, a carriage," and with a wave of her hand, an antique coach rolled gently before them. "Oh my!" gasped Ella. And for you to wear, my dear." Her fairy godmother put her arm around Ella. "I have something special in store." As Ella's fairy godmother withdrew her arm from her shoulder, lovely leaves and aromatic hazelnuts whirred around them both and came to a stop in the shape of a green crown that landed gently on Ella's head. Meanwhile, a spring green dress of Ella's dream length and cut draped her in the softest and lightest of fit. "Oh, this is amazing!" Ella cried, "and I know just what to pair it with." "You mean you don't have any fancy shoes?" invited her fairy godmother. "Oh, no, I've got just the thing," Ella called back as she darted toward her house. Ella raced to her closet and topped the whole look off with her favorite emerald green shoes. They were perfect for all occasions, plus she'd never seen anyone else in them, ever. "Now zip along, you've got a ball to enjoy," said her fairy godmother, hurrying her into the carriage. "And please return everything you borrowed back here to the hazel tree at the end of the night. The tree will be missing its leaves." Ella arrived at the ball looking and feeling brilliant. The music was amazing, everything smelled delicious, and there was dancing. While her friends set off to mingle, Ella sat with the king to discuss her cause. There turned out to be quite a line, and as Ella waited, she felt a tap on her shoulder. "Amazing shoes, princess," said an unfamiliar voice. Ella spun around to come face to face with someone new, a prince in fact, but Ella didn't notice. She was too distracted by the fact that he was wearing her exact same one-of-a-kind, or so she thought, shoes, but his were blue. "Amazing shoes yourself," Ella finally stammered. "I'm Prince," said the prince. "I see we have similar tastes. How'd you like to try on the blue version?" Prince slipped out of one of his shoes and handed it to Ella. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely." Ella slipped out of one of her green shoes and reached for Prince's blue version, which looked simply super. Prince and Ella chatted the night away while they waited in line for the king. They sang along to the popular songs of the day, shared their interests, and even spoke about matters bigger than themselves, which touched whole kingdoms. "I'm visiting from a small, far-off land, and I'm very interested in your kingdom's commitment to care for its workers," Prince explained. "I heard it all started with a letter from a local. Can you believe it? I'd love to pick that person's brain." "Oh, well, I could tell you some neat facts about it if you like," Ella said excitedly, but at just that moment her name was called for her audience with the king, and she was pulled from the line in haste. "We'll catch up after," she called to her new friend as she raced off. "Wait, I didn't get your name," Prince called after her. "And I have your shoe." But Ella was long gone into the depths of the castle. After a successful conversation with the king, she had just left his chamber when she heard the clock strike midnight. "Oh no," she thought to herself, "the hazel tree will be missing its leaves." With a last look for her shoe doppelganger, she left the ball. "What a shame," she lamented when she was safely in the carriage. "It's so rare I meet someone with whom I'm so in sync." The days passed, and time marched on. The success of the king's benefit ball was felt throughout the kingdom. New laws were introduced that let small businesses flourish, working conditions improved, and new houses were built. However, Ella felt lonely and longed for someone to celebrate these great milestones with. She wished she knew how to reach Prince, her new friend and soulmate. Meanwhile, Prince in his kingdom was feeling the same. He was on the cusp of making positive change in his small corner of the world, yet was missing a partner he could learn from and share the success with. He thought he might have had a glimpse of such a person when he met his amazing shoe twin at the benefit ball, but sadly, he didn't know her name nor where to find her. Rather than sit around and pout, Prince saddled up his horse and started to ask around. The good news was he still had Ella's unique green shoe to help guide the way, and guide the way it did, for everywhere Prince visited he was told, "No one here has a shoe quite like that, but I've heard of a great woman doing the work you speak of in a kingdom not far from here." Slowly but surely, Prince made his way to the great kingdom where Ella was busy leading the Business Affairs Council, unifying workers and seeking fairness wherever she saw that things were unjust, and of course, wearing an amazing mismatched shoes. One day after a particularly prickly town meeting, things don't always go smoothly, even in fairy tale kingdoms, Ella walked home exhausted. As she turned her gate, something under the hazel tree caught her eye. It was her green shoe. "Prince, is that you?" Ella called out. "It is indeed," he said as he rose from behind the tree. "Our shoes are finally reunited." "Is that why you came to find me?" asked Ella. "Well, it's not the only reason," Prince said. I think we have much more to talk about, more songs to sing along to, and more parties to enjoy. I had to find you. I'm so glad you did, Ella cheered. It would have been a lot easier if I'd known your name. Friends laughed. It's Ella, she said. My friends call me Cinderella. There's a story. Friends and Ella spent every day together after that, working together, getting to know one another's friends and kingdoms, sitting under the hazel tree together, and, of course, sharing shoes. When Friends and Ella eventually married, they moved to a new kingdom where a leader such as Ella was so needed. There, she became prime minister and worked tirelessly to raise the minimum wage so that all members of the kingdom could prosper. Her constituents, too, called her Cinderella to honor her first business. It was the start of a life in leadership, service, and seeking justice for all.